Hey guys, it is an honor and privilege to be here. I come from the great white East, where there is a lot of crazy people. And I just want to appreciate that I keep consistently loving people I meet from Iowa and from Nebraska. You make good exports. I don't know if you keep all the crazies here and you send the good ones out, but in New York, I've been benefiting from dear old friends for many, many years from this region, so thank you. I want to thank, it's a privilege to be here, and I want to thank Jonathan, my partner. I want to thank especially David and Sarah, who put all this together. Give them a hand. Amazing. No joke, first thing that happened when I got out of the airport at Des Moines was like literally, I had like this bracing a moment where I walked out of the airport into the outside, and I immediately thought, wow, that's clean air. I literally had that experience. I was like, man, what have I been breathing for all my life? It's very clean air here. So I'm not trying to, but I want to introduce you to my family. These are the people I get to do my life with. We live in Brooklyn, New York. This is us in Central Park. That's Billionaires Row behind us of skyscrapers. We've got Noah 16, Luke 14, Parker 12 now, and Amanda Timeless. That's a lot of boy energy that Amanda has to put up with. A lot of male energy in the home. You know, she's alone. It's 4-1. They're all big boys. I don't know where that came from. I'm actually 6'7". So the meme has crested, and it's now being ridiculed. That's good. I'm glad to see it go. But I gotta say, being 6'7" makes Halloween costumes much easier. It also has made me very popular with Gen Alpha, And I gotta say, seriously, I've lived a few years, and I've seen a few generations come and go, mine included. And it is amazing the slang that Gen Z and Alpha have invented. I don't know if you know, but my observation is we haven't had this wide a vocabulary of new slang since probably the 60s with their groovy far out days. Seriously, I think the 60s was the last time something like this happened. So when I was preparing for this week's theme, when I wanted to explain what worthy meant to my kids and, to the boys and say, I'm trying to communicate God's worth, that God is worthy, so I just said, no cap, no glaze, high key. God is the W Alpha Sigma Wizard who hits different with his plus 1,000 Pinterest aesthetic aura, always bussing and deserving of 3 big booms, never a seller or AFK. His is fire with his first century drip, and the goat with sermons that are bars and slap. I'm finna be like Bet if bro pulls up on the second coming. So this crowd is like ready to turn on me. I don't know what's happening, but actually, I did not create that. I asked my 16-year-old, hey Noah, could you give me something that I can say in this slang? And he wrote this in about 10 minutes. Word for word, I've kept it just as he wrote it and checked again with him. Anyway, but it is a lot of fun. Just a little bit about me. This is me in 1989 in the center. Taylor recorded it, but I lived it in 1989. And the hair added 3 inches to my height at that point. Gabe says I should bring back the mullet. I don't know if you agree or not, but maybe. I'm not sure. But I was raised in Queens in a Christian home, but we were pretty isolated. We were some of the only Christians in New York, it felt like. When I got to the senior year of high school, I met 3 other Christians in my high school. And I was shocked and I was amazed in my senior year. And I told my friend that, who grew up in Dallas, and he said, I think in my senior year I found out there were 3 non-Christians in my school, in high school. So it's a very different environment to grow up there. I don't begrudge it, but I do try to reverse that experience. I don't want other people to have to experience that. College was really the first time I found people and communities of people my own age who were really centering the teachings of Jesus and saying this actually could change the world if we actually tried to live this out and put it into practice. What would happen if we applied the teachings of Jesus, these ancient teachings, to our lives today? And we started doing that, and it was amazing. It changed my life. It's why I'm here today, is because I want to see more of those communities happen. You're part of one of those communities. Isn't that amazing? Even if you came here alone, I see you, Nate, over there. Even if you came here alone, like, you are part of a friendship network of people that are experiencing something different. And you may not be part of one of those communities right now, and you're so welcome here. Like, this is a huge, look at these arms are 6'7" wide right now. And these arms are wide open for you. They'll never close. So grateful that you're here. I found that the Navigators was serious about God's word, serious about people, and crazy about everything else. Nothing else mattered, and that's what I loved about them. Our theme this weekend is worthy. And let's define that term. Britannica says that worthy is something good and deserving of respect, praise, or attention. Respect, praise, or attention. And the English word worship that we just did, some beautiful worship. Can we hear it for the band? Kind of incredible. Amazing. I actually was worried about losing my voice while singing. It was so good. Worship comes from the Old English worthship. Worthship. We worship what we think has worth, either through song or with our words. We worship what we think has worth. But the world often values things in very weird and wild ways these days. This is a picture that very much could be my neighborhood. I don't think it's my neighborhood, but it could very much be in New York City. Parking in my neighborhood is terrible. Like, it takes us sometimes 20, 40 minutes to find a spot on a normal day. The family record is 2 hours looking for a parking spot. This is my life. We plan our schedules around when we can find parking. There's a parking garage a few blocks from my house, and an enterprising owner of this parking garage said, let me not rent these spaces out. What if I sold these spaces? So he's deeded the property of the parking space. You can buy a parking space like you can buy a piece of land. It's deeded, and you know how much a parking space costs in this garage about 10 blocks from my house? $225,000. About the price of a house in some other places of the country. I would not be surprised if some New Yorkers are trying to live in their parking spaces if they own those. But is it worth it? No. Okay. New York is crazy, man. New York is crazy. Sotheby's is a very famous auction house in New York City, and they had a huge auction in November 2024. And it was of a banana taped to the wall. This is real. This happened. And this was presented as contemporary art. No one had ever done this before. I am duct taping a banana to the wall. What do you think? How much is that worth? What would you bid? The bidding continued and continued and continued. And it finally sold for $6.2 million. Someone paid $6.2 million for this banana and duct tape. And later it came out that the artist bought the banana from a fruit stand outside on the Manhattan Street outside in Midtown East, and paid 35 cents for the banana. And he probably thought it was worth it, actually. he probably thought. Now, when the proprietor of the fruit stands heard about what it sold for, he wept, sadly. And where is the banana now? A few days after he bought the piece, this art piece, the crypto entrepreneur who bought it ate the banana. So he ate $6.2 million. I hope it was worth it. What's worth it? What's worth our time? What's worth our investment? What's worth our commitment? What's ultimately worth our lives? Whatever we think is worth it, we opt in for. You know, I'm proud of you all because you made a wise decision. You said, this conference is worth it. I was in campus ministry for 17 years, and I started with the millennial generation. And the millennials, we realized the way to get them to come to a conference was FOMO, fear of missing out. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be great. And then when Gen Z came along, we realized that's not working anymore. They don't have FOMO, they have FOGO, fear of going out. And what we realized is we have to appeal to the fact that this is worth it. We know that this costs a lot. We know that this is going to hurt it possibly could hurt your studies. It won't, but it possibly could hurt your, whatever, and you've got other things to do. But believe us, this is worth it. You guys said this is worth it, and I'm glad you did. I invite you now to be all here, now that you said that. Now that you opted in, don't waste this opportunity. All of you came with a lot on your mind, a lot going on. Maybe you have a lot going on with people in this room or whatever, or a lot of distractions. Try not to be distracted. We live in a very, very distracted world. Try to be here not just in body, but in soul. Not just technically, but spiritually. Be all here. Be listening. If you're hearing my voice right now, it means that God is in pursuit of your life. He wants you here. That's why you're here. You didn't, it's not just you thinking this was a good idea or the persuasiveness of that or the scholarship or whatever. What brought you here was ultimately God, and he has something for you. And I want you to lean in, and I want you to be all here. Don't waste this moment. So whether it's the worship or the workshops or conversations over meals, the fun times, times listening to Jonathan, whatever, lean in, learn, gather it. So our definition of worthy is something that's good and deserving respect, praise, or attention. Do you know what your most precious resource is? I've been alluding to it. It's not time. Most people say it's time. It's not money. It's attention. Because I can spend time with you, right? If I'm your friend, I can spend time with you, but what if I'm not listening? What if I'm not really there? What if my mind is elsewhere? You know what the description of us now, I include myself, in our new digital world, our social media world? Forever elsewhere. We're forever elsewhere. This is not the way it's supposed to be. I really recommend this amazing documentary, The Social Dilemma, if you've never seen it. We all know by now that social media companies are very expertly manipulating us, individually, actually. When I pick up my wife's phone and look at her feed, I'm like, this is totally different from my feed. It's crazy. I thought we're all kind of similar, but it's tweaked a little bit. No, it's very individualized to hold our attention and grasp more mind share. They're incentivized to monetize our anxiety. They realize that the more anxious and angry they can make us, the more they can keep us on the platform. The more engaged we'll be. And the more of our attention and the more of our time and the more of our money goes to things that are really not worth it in the end. And all of our, I used to, I wasn't going to share this, but when I was your age, and I'm waiting for a subway or, heading home or on the grocery line, I would pull out my verse pack. I don't know if you guys still use these, but to review some verses. Now what do people do? Everybody on the subway has their phone out. Everybody in the grocery line, everybody at the toilet, at the urinal is holding their phone. It's eating up every little second that's available. So there's a real battle going on for our attention, and it's not just for our attention, it's for who we'll become. who we'll become. Our lives are changing in ways we're not even aware. A recent study showed that 3/4 of British children, which is not too different from American children, right? 3/4 of British children spend more time inside than prison inmates. Young people are saying they're lonelier than retired senior citizens. In the US, researchers are saying that half of an American childhood is now spent on short, addictive reels. And a direct relationship has finally been proven between time spent online and feelings of anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. It's no longer correlation, it's now causation. They can prove causation. And even right now, there's a big court case right now, you might have heard of it, of Meta and YouTube being brought to court. And for personal injury because of body dysphoria and these other things that I've mentioned. One author and commentator said, when our attention is held for hours each day by black box algorithms, meaning algorithms we don't know how they're figuring out who we are, black box algorithms that feed us not what we want so much as what we will find it hard to look away from, we are being, in a sense, deformed. Are you not sure yet if you want to be a disciple? Too late. You're already being discipled by the world all day long. Even if you never turn on your phone, that's true. But especially if you have a phone. Because in the end, we become what we pay attention to, what we gaze at, what we dwell on, what we delight in, what we love, what we praise, what we worship, what we talk up at parties. Or else our lives may end up looking, you can control this, I guess is one thing I want to communicate. You are not powerless. There's a sense in this generation of learned powerlessness, learned helplessness. That is not true for you. You are not helpless. You can control where your attention goes, where your time goes, where your life goes. You can control what direction you set things in. Who disciples you? You can control that. Are you being discipled by Jesus? That's the ultimate question. We're tempted with all the negative news in our feeds and in the newspaper to either tune out or rage out against the world. An article just this week in the New York Times titled, "Please Pass the Awe," advocates trying to counteract our doom scrolling with developing a sense of awe. This was on Wednesday. Can you believe how happy I was to read this on Wednesday? And happy I was to read it in the New York Times, really, even more than that. Like, it's advocating developing a sense of awe, and they didn't know how to do this. So the whole article was about using the Winter Olympics to do that. And it talks about beholding, and it talks about awe. This is skeleton, the sport, where you fly down a bobsled course going 80 miles per hour, face first, with your chin an inch or two from the ice. I think the sport got its name from, what they picked up at the bottom of the course the first few times they did it. But Dr. Keltner is a psychologist at the University of California, Berkeley. He spent decades studying what happens to us when we experience awe. This is a quote from the article. "It isn't just a pleasant feeling. His research suggests that awe allows for a neurobiological reset in which hormones are released that lower stress, depression, and chronic disease." This is proven. The key to getting the full set of physiological benefits is beholding. A practice that will pay off over the course of watching these games and long after. Beholding takes close attention and the full power of your senses. This is a pic of snowboarding legend Chloe Kim soaring high in the air above a half pipe. And the article says, let yourself be mesmerized by the way Chloe Kim floats off the side of the half pipe and into her rotations. Notice the height she gets and her strangely soft landings. Take in the sounds of the ice under her board as she rolls from one wall to the other like a happy marble. Beholding takes and causes a smallness of self. You're watching this and you're like, I could never do that, or I would never do that, if it's skeleton, right? Beholding takes and causes a smallness of self. This research in the New York Times is reporting on yet another example of what we see a lot of if we're being honest, and if anyone's being honest and paying attention, that science keeps catching up with faith, that the world keeps catching up with the Word of God. Whether it's psychologists researching the human mind, sociologists observing social connections, medical experts taking on meditation and the benefits of meditation, parentheses, prayer, and nutritionists celebrating fasting. Archaeologists digging up the ancient world and finding more and more proof that what happens and talked about in the Bible actually exists. There's many examples of that. Look it up, of times when people were like, this never happened, and the Bible makes it up, and then they find it in the desert somewhere in the ancient Near East. These news reports are showing that consistently the Bible and Christianity are the healthiest, truest, and most reliable sources for human flourishing. Let's pay attention to them. I mean the Bible and Christianity. How can we make sure that we're not wasting our lives, not becoming more and more concerned with just our own needs, our own little echo chambers, our own little, my little list that they make for me that's just for me. It's me, 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 me. Small. That's a smallness in a wrong way, you know? And how can we live for something greater than ourselves? How can we make sure what we give our lives to is worth it? We need to encounter the reality of God. That's how. We want to explore this weekend with you in the evenings 2 passages, classic passages. I'm going to cover with you the next 2 nights, one from the Old Testament, one from the New Testament. And they answer these questions that I've been asking of how we can find true worth for our lives. Tonight we look at the book of Isaiah, which has been called the Gospel of the Old Testament. My wife and I love this book so much we named our 3rd child Parker Isaiah Troutman. Pitbull. Anyway, he's never heard me say that yet, actually, so I'm going to say that someday to him. But anyway, human beings are shaped by stories, and the Bible is a book full of stories, many different stories, written by many different people. 66 books, I believe 27 authors over 3,000 years, but they're all in sync, telling one story, and the story is about Jesus. The Old Testament points to the cross, the New Testament points back to the cross, and if you look at it that way, you realize Jesus is on every page of this book, and the full beauty and glory of the Bible is revealed when you look at it that way. So Isaiah brings out much of that story, and actually this passage that we're going to look at tonight, 8 verses, encapsulates that whole story really well. All right, I'm going to read the passage first. Actually, it was read already. You heard it already once. I want you to imagine it. I want you to picture it now, okay? That's really important. If you're bored when you're reading the Bible, you're reading it too fast or too slow. Isn't that ironic? For me, it's happening that I'm reading it too fast typically. And the most amazing things happen when I take it slow and I think about every word, because every word that's in there is in there for a reason. But if you're doing that a lot, maybe you need to read fast and read a whole book. You know, read through a whole book. You spend a whole afternoon. One of the most life-changing experiences of my life was, I wasn't planning on sharing this, but my life had fallen apart because of sexual immorality a few decades ago. And a loving navigator mentor said, come up to my house, spend a few days with me. And he spent, and what he did with me was, he said, Peter, I just want to read the book of Luke with you. And we just read it out loud to each other. And we just didn't say, okay, you read 3 verses, I'll read 3 verses. We just read until we got tired and stopped and then thought about it. And then the next person would read. He spent 4 hours with me reading the book of Luke. It changed me. I forgot what I had fallen in love with in the first place. I forgot what the reason to not do sexually immoral things. There's something more beautiful for us, That's what we need. I was in awe of Jesus again when I read the Gospel of Luke all the way through. Have you ever done that? Probably not, right? But try it. We're finding time for the sexually immoral stuff, right? Find time for this. It'll start displacing a lot else. All right. That wasn't in the notes. Where am I? Okay. Okay. Yes, reading the passage. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. Picture this. High and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke, much like this place was when you walked in. More haze, more praise. Woe to me, I cried. I am ruined. Thank you for whoever I stole that from today. Woe to me, I cried. I am ruined. This is Isaiah speaking. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hands, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send and who will go for us? And I said, Here am I. Send me. This is the story of Isaiah, the prophet, meeting God as he never has before. This is his commissioning, and this is him encountering God's reality. Let's walk through this passage with a simple outline. God, guilt, grace, go. This is from John Stott, that outline is. God, guilt, grace, go. In the year that King Uzziah died, when was that? Do you know that date? The king had been in seclusion for several years because of his leprosy. He had receded from his leadership and things were falling apart in the nation. Falling apart politically as Assyria was breathing down their necks, menacing Israel, about to conquer Israel. That's what a lot of Isaiah is about, is that coming domination. But also spiritually, things were falling apart as Israel long ago stopped being faithful solely to their one true God and adopted and worshiped the gods of the people around them, of the cultures around them. It was a big syncretistic mix. It was a big mix and it was a big mess. The people's faith was a mile wide and an inch deep. Everybody was a believer, mile wide. But how many people were being changed by anything that they were doing? Nothing. This is what Isaiah addresses. This sounds a lot to me like America today. We're a mile wide. The church is a mile wide. Everybody believes in Jesus. So many people believe in God. Something like 80% still in America. Yet look at what we're doing. Look at what we're producing as a culture. Look at what's going on in our culture. Something's missing. It's depth. We're living in the shallows. And our practices, our daily formation is actually our daily deformation. We're being deformed. So Isaiah sees the Lord high and lifted up. He's beholding God's glory. The Hebrew word glory means weight. What holds mass and weight, what's permanent versus temporary, real versus unreal, meaningful versus meaningless. Weight. Nothing has more weight and meaning than God. Nothing is more real than God. I don't know about you, but seriously, I got turned on by this idea many years ago, maybe when I was your age, I don't know. I want to live in reality. Maturity is the degree to which you agree with reality. Capital R, meaning God is in it. God is real, and he's really in it, you know? And I'm not interested in living in a fantasy world where I think I'm better or worse than I really am. I'm not interested in that. This is why the Bible's so valuable to me. It's a mirror. I look at the Bible, I open up the Bible, and it shows me who I am. It's not deforming me. It's not distorted. It's true. It's true that I'm a worse sinner than I ever thought of, than I ever thought I was. It's also true that I'm more loved than I ever thought I could be. Both are true. Simultaneously, we're big boys and girls. We can handle the dynamic tension of the gospel. So he's beholding this glory, what's really real. And, because of his weight, God creates earthquakes. Every time God shows up in the Bible, there's an earthquake. It happened at Mount Sinai. Exodus 8:19 says, Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord descended on it in fire. The whole mountain trembled violently. It happened at Pentecost, as you know, where the upper room shook, and fire also came down there. And Isaiah is filled with awe. You know what we tend to do? We tend to gaze at the world and glance at the Lord. But we should gaze at the Lord and glance at the world. Can we do that? What would happen to our lives if we treated things this way? That's what's happening for Isaiah here. He's mentioning the train of his robe. The longer a king's train was on his robe, the more power and wealth he had. And God's train fills the whole temple. I've been deeply impacted by Timothy Keller. He founded the church that I met my wife in, Redeemer Presbyterian, in New York City, and several of his ideas greatly influenced these two talks I'm giving these 2 nights. I want to give credit. He points out that he talks about the God concept. He says there's a difference between believing in God and having an experience of God's glory. And Isaiah here, didn't show up and start believing in God after he had this encounter. He already believed in God, but it was just as a concept. It wasn't really the full reality. A concept of God fits neatly into your life, but it doesn't change all the other beliefs around it. So you can live a syncretistic life, a mixed up life. Many people like to pick and choose. How many people do you know like this? Like to pick and choose what they're going to apply from the Bible. I love that part. I don't really like that part. Oh, that seems barbaric. I'm not going to, I'm not comfortable with. I'm smorgasbord. I love the buffet of the Bible, right? Scriptural smorgasbord, Bible buffet. I'm just making all this alliteration. I'm an ally of alliteration. Okay, if that's you, you don't have a God that can ever disagree with you. If you're picking and choosing what to believe, you have not met God. You have a God concept in your head. And you've constructed him in your own image. You've made him in your own image. God has not fully made you in his own image yet. You're made in the image of God, no doubt, even if you don't believe in him. But the way to be remade, reborn, transformed into his image is by beholding him, encountering him, and dropping your God concept. Whatever he is smaller than the real God. He's lighter than the real God. I love this quote from Tim. You shape the God concept, it doesn't shape you. God as a concept is lighter than you, but God as a reality is heavier than you. Come on now, drop the mic. I need a mic to drop. Can I just drop this? The worship band freaked out just now. Seriously freaked out. Instead of God fitting into our agenda, we start fitting into his agenda. If we've encountered him, if he's revealed himself to us. An experience of him that's real like Isaiah's here. And it doesn't need to look like Isaiah's here. When you look at all the encounters of people with God, they're all different. And yours might be different. What does he experience right when he immediately feel convicted of? His guilt. That could be you. But it could also be for you, your shame. It could be something else, that you realize about yourself because you're meeting a real God, a loving God, a powerful God, one you can't control. It's ironic, but it's the greatest thing in the world to surrender yourself to a God who you can't control. Because every other God you're choosing instead of him is controlling you. If you live your life for someone and something worth so much more than you, you will experience a new kind of abundance. By giving him worth, you find your worth. And that's not the case with other idols. So I personally find that when I give attention to God, when I show up for God, I struggle just like all of you with busy schedules, and believe me, you think you're busy now. But when you get a full-time job, and when you start dating someone, and when you marry someone, and you have your first kid, second kid, third kid, your time is like this. And you're like, oh my gosh, right? But I just want to say that no matter where you are on the business spectrum, the reality is when I give time to God to speak, he speaks. When I don't give him any time, he doesn't speak. And it's not his fault. I'm not showing up. I'm the one who's not showing up. It's not his fault. Why do I blame him? I can't say, oh, he left me. I left him. He's more real than I am. Long ago, I sat with a college senior named Ben at New York University. And I was discipling him, investing in him, and we really loved getting the Word together. We always enjoyed it when we were, doing the things that navigators do with the Bible, just enjoying it. And one day we said, let's commit to each other. This is like 2008, maybe. Let's commit to each other to never let a day go by that we don't open the Bible and at least read something every day for the rest of our lives until we die. And he was, 21 years old, and I was whatever I was, 26. No, but maybe it is what I was. Anyway, but yeah, he and I made that commitment to each other, and I think we've mostly kept it. It's been really helpful for me. And I encourage you to do that. If you love the Bible, maybe you're not there yet, you don't believe the Bible, you don't believe this stuff yet. But if you've experienced dynamic transformation in your heart because of the gospel and because of the Bible, I'd encourage you to strongly, really strongly, to do that, to give him attention every single day in his word. Spend time in his gaze daily. We live in the age of the horizontal self, where we're getting our identity from the things around us, comparing to ourselves. Are we more smarter, stupider, whatever? And the world says, don't let anyone else tell you who you are. Only you can determine who you are. It doesn't matter what other people think. All that matters is what you think. That's not fully healthy. The modern person has found that this pressure to define ourselves, which is a horizontal self, rather than a vertical self, looking up. I was worshiping, and there's a plug in the ceiling over there. I don't know why it's there, but I was like, that's it. That's the power that we plug into when we look up. All right, I'm corny. I'm also tall, so it's eye level for me, but whatever. But my point is, we need a vertical self because the pressure that people have to define who they are in every way is crushing. And we were never designed to do this. We were never meant to do this. It's crushing us. It's destroying people's mental health every day, all day. What you need is to belong to a God and to belong to a community. And there you find great depth and meaning and worth. Because in light of his glory, we realize God is creator. I am creature. God is limitless. I have limits. God doesn't sleep. I need sleep. It's very practical. God is in control. I wasn't made to be in control. Why am I so obsessed with being in control? God is love. I am beloved. He's not some kind of tyrant. Look at him for who he really is. The Bible will show you who he really is. He reveals himself there. The Bible answers in thrilling and challenging ways the biggest questions in life. Where do I come from? Where are we going? What's wrong with the world? What's wrong with me? Why can what's broken be made whole? What am I here for? Isaiah sees the seraphim, and the seraphim, literally, they're heavenly beings, attendants to God at the temple. And the literal meaning of seraphim is the burning ones, okay? Aura farming. Am I right here? The burning ones. How cool is that? I want to be a burning one. Anyway, and they're singing, and they're worshiping God, and they're singing holy, 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 and in the Bible, in Hebrew, in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew scriptures, emphasis and magnitude is communicated by repetition, saying a word twice. So David says, Absalom, Absalom, and Jesus says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. They're emphasizing how much they mean it. And then magnitude is like in Genesis, it says, it's in the English describes very large pits in one verse, but it actually in Hebrew is pits. Very pity pits, right? In 2 Kings, it says purest gold in the English, but it says in the Hebrew gold, the richest gold. I mean gold and gold. There's many examples of that happening, but this is the only place in the entire Bible that a word is used 3 times, and it's kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy. It's so holy. It's magnitudes bigger. I mean, I get accused by my kids of glazing, U2 or some other thing that or vegetables, whatever I'm telling them to do. God's unglazable. You can't glaze him. He's unglazable. Holy, holy, holy only begins to get there. I guess I gotta drop the slang because it's okay. I'm having fun. Anyway, but there's 2 things they're communicating. Sorry. 2 things they're communicating. One is God's separateness, how different he is, that he's God and I am not. He is holy. And his splendor, his beauty. He is holy, holy, holy. He's so beautiful. And the seraphim are singing to each other. They're worshiping God in the beauty of his holiness. Isaiah's response when this happens. What happens with Isaiah? In light of the Lord's holiness and beauty, he's convicted. I am ruined. I'm undone. You're all talented people. You all got into college. You all are great at something. Maybe you're athletes or a math whiz or an artist or, techie or whatever. You were probably a big fish in the small pond you came from. Then you went to the big university and there's 100 people better than you at what you do. Do you feel this? There's 100 people better than you at what you thought made you special. It's humbling. It's humiliating. It's what Isaiah is experiencing here. All fall short of the glory of God, and he's really realizing how short he's fallen. So he's feeling the guilt, and I wanted to. Oh, I'm missing a page. He's feeling the guilt, and I'm definitely missing a page. That's all right. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, this is out of order now. Okay, sorry. Okay, but he's experiencing the guilt. Okay, next slide. He's saying, woe to me, I'm ruined, I'm a man of unclean lips. The prophet who lives on words is realizing how unclean his lips are. And even though he's saying good things, he knows he's guilty of bad things coming out of his. And he's realizing he not only is other people the problem, but he's the problem. And this is the vertical self part. Sorry, next slide. I actually had the slides out of order. And next slide. Sorry, so sorry, guys. Wow, 1 page out of order here. And yes, next slide. Remember these questions? Those questions were on the screen at one point too. Next slide. Okay. So this is trainings we're doing with the New York Police Department, and it's grown from 23 cops to 350 cops doing 8-hour spiritual trainings with us, where we're equipping them. And they're the lowest morale. And I want to say, there's real corruption and evil in the NYPD, but there's also great forces for good. Like everywhere else in our world, it's contested space. But these are the lowest morale, most stressed out New Yorkers I've ever met. 75% divorce rate in the first 5 years of joining the force because of the PTSD. The suicide rates are high. We're running marriage retreats, and some have said it saved their marriages. Lieutenants in the PD are saying that our trainings are reducing the suicide rate now. And praise the Lord. I mean, it's amazing. And so this next week, we're doing more of these 8-hour trainings, and they come for 8 hours and sit with us and do these trainings in this room. And the topic is Gripped by Grace. They need grace. We all need grace. And one of the cops said, he's a former SWAT team member. He said, he actually from another department, not the NYPD, but he was speaking to the NYPD for us. And he said, you want true police reform? Help us see that each criminal is someone created in the image of God. That changes everything for us, how we see them and how we treat them. And one detective that we have is with the Special Victims Unit and works with children who have been sexually abused in New York. And he has had his own life radically changed in the last 2 years by the gospel, by Jesus. And now he says he used to, when he would arrest a perpetrator of these crimes, he would want to kill them. He would just want to rip their heads off for obvious reasons, right? Now he's talking to them in the cell about Jesus. It's the worst day of their lives. They've been caught. They hate themselves. They want to kill themselves. And he says, listen, you're a sinner. I'm a sinner. I found grace. You can find grace. It can change your life. It can change who you are from the inside out. These are people that have done really awful things. It's true. But the truth of the gospel still applies to them. Just like it applied to Saul, who was murdering Christians. And he became Paul, who wrote 1/3 of the New Testament. What follows the guilt and that feeling of guilt is grace. One of the seraphim, the second that he admits his guilt, that instant, grace is given to Isaiah. Immediately, he's cleansed. Immediately. That's how fast it happens when you confess your sin to Jesus and say, I'm broken and I'm in need of a Savior and I'm done trying to fix it myself. If that's you, if you're ready to give up and surrender to him, he will accept it and he gives you grace immediately. And he says, your sins are atoned for. The burning coal was lit in the altar that was used for burning sacrifices, animal sacrifices in the temple. The animal sacrifices were given to Israel so that they have a way to constantly interact with the reality that each one of their sins leads to death of some kind. A death of trust, a death of relationship, a death of God's good intention and calling for who we're supposed to be. So finally, the last part, go. Whom shall I send and who will go for us? Here am I, send me. Who will go for us? That's the Trinity. Who will go for us? And Isaiah's like, here am I, send me. He doesn't even look at the job description. He just says, I'm here, I'm available. He becomes available like that because he's been forgiven much. If you've been forgiven much, you love much. And first loved, we love. My favorite summary of the gospel in one verse. We love because he first loved us. Centuries later, another temple would be shaken to its core. And after Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? And he's saying, like Isaiah says, I'm undone. The temple would shake to the point where the curtain that separates God from us would be torn in two. And rather than Jesus being told your sins are forgiven, Jesus was the sacrifice on the altar. Jesus Christ was shaken by the judgment of God. Jesus Christ is the judge of the world. And I love this from Tim. He was the judge of the world who came the first time not to bring judgment, but to bear judgment. He was shaken so that we could be unshakable. And if we're accepted completely, not because of our performance, but because of his performance, we're free. So behold the beauty of like a constellation like this. Behold the beauty of God. Realize, that if the distance between the earth and the sun, 92 million miles, was reduced to the thickness of this sheet of paper, 92 million miles is represented by this thickness of paper, then the distance between the earth and the nearest star would be a stack of paper 70 feet high. And the diameter of the galaxy would be a stack of paper 310 miles high. That's how big the galaxy is. And yet the galaxy is nothing but a speck of dust in the whole universe. And the Bible says Jesus Christ holds the whole universe together with a word of his power, with his pinky essentially. Now, is this the kind of person you ask into your life to be your assistant? Have you been doing that? Wrap yourself around my agenda. Answer my prayers, God. I want this. I want you to do this. Instead, say to him, here am I, send me. I want to have Jonathan come up now, and he is going to share a story of how he said that to God. It's really beautiful. Please welcome Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, and greetings, everyone. What an opportunity to be here with you and to share my testimony with you guys. And 20 years ago, I graduated from university with a bachelor's degree in agriculture, a major in animal science. Any animal science major in the room? Yes. I don't often say this, but I graduated top of my class, and I won an award. There's a shield in my house. It's stuck somewhere. It's not on the shelf. One day I will show my kids that I wasn't the best student, but mine was out of determination. And when I graduated, I was offered a graduate trainee opportunity with a leading company in our country, a feed manufacturing company. I was a big student on nutritional biochemistry. So the University of Zimbabwe, which is the school that I went to, also offered me an opportunity to come and pursue a master's degree soon after I finished my undergrad. This opportunity came actually before I got my final semester results. I don't know what they saw in me that they thought I was going to pass the final semester exam. So I also learned that my dissertation professor had submitted my name for a potential scholarship to go to study in Manitoba, Canada. That was like, wow, man, this is going to be cool. My life was getting sorted out. I had nice opportunities to choose from. And friends, the graduate trainee opportunity comes with a lot of nice perks. Can you see that beautiful truck there? That was one of the things that I was going to have when I was given the award for the best student. The human resource manager of the feed company literally said, see you on Monday. We want you to come and work for us. This is a dream for every graduate in my country. Everyone will, die for this opportunity. However, I turned this down. I turned all these offers down and chose to be with the Navigators as an intern and to receive training to go into full-time ministry. You're probably wondering, who does that? Actually, I rode a bicycle to campus. You see that bike? You know, this is a common bicycle in Zimbabwe. Mine was almost like this one. Unfortunately, I didn't have a phone with a camera to keep one of that bike that I owned. But that was my vehicle to campus, where I stayed until 10 p.m. sharing the gospel, following up the students and having fun on campus. I chose God ahead of all the bananas that were dangled in front of me. Matthew 6:33, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. You know, I spent time reflecting on this passage, and God used this passage to give me a perspective, to give me a worldview that if I put him first, if he's number one, and I seek to help others know him and live in his kingdom, I will have all these things. All I wanted was to honor God. All I wanted was to serve God. All I wanted was to just do to others what had been done to me by the guy who discipled me. He had loved me, and he had made me feel special, and I came to know God more, having come to campus as a believer, and right at the time when I thought freedom is here, and a navigator guy knocked on my door and invited me to a Bible study. So I never get the opportunity to do that. So as I conclude, friends, this God is worth it. This God is worth it. God has been so good. And, you know, I have a car. I drive a car, so I no longer ride a bicycle to campus. And as I call Peter back, I just wanted to just testify that, you know, my choice of pursuing God has been such a blessing, not just to me, but to my family. And that I've got to have you as my brothers and sisters in the Lord. Amen. Thank you.
Isn't that incredible? And you get to hear Jonathan tomorrow morning, so we're looking forward to that. Thank you, Jonathan. And no one who's given up fields or houses or mother or father or children or friends will fail to receive 100 times as much in this life, and in the life to come, eternal life. So it's worth it. He's worth it. I just want to end with a beholding exercise where we will listen to and watch a video. You can close your eyes or you can watch it. But it's an amazing thing that happens in real life. I almost said IRL, but I'm going to drop all the slang, okay? But the Dr. S.M. Lockbridge was an elderly pastor that visited a mega church in California years ago. And the pastor in the pulpit saw him and invited him to come up and just say a few words. And this was his greeting. This is what he said. So this was just off the top of his head, off the cuff. But as he describes his king, why don't you behold your king?